Yeah. Yeah, and welcome everyone, and welcome to What's Up? What's Up? My name is Patrick, and tonight you can call me Patrick. So welcome everyone to What's Up? This is a MAGA event host or presented by the Education Network of Victoria, ENVi, of which everyone is envious. It's great to see so many people here tonight. Have we got a show for you? Well, we want you to participate. So I, on behalf of our team that is presenting this tonight, would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we're on. I pay my respects to the Wurundjeri people. I'm on Wurundjeri land in Melbourne, and I pay respects to elders past, present, and some fantastic people that I am fortunate to work with who are the new emerging leaders of the Wurundjeri people, and so proud to be able to work closely with them, and so pleased to have you here tonight to celebrate. So thanks very much for coming. We've got some great guests that we're going to meet, and we're going to even do a reenactment of the Penguin Parade. Skye doesn't know that yet, but well, I only thought of it about 1 minute before the show, and you'll be really excited to see that, and some fantastic music that comes with that as well. I know so many faces. It's great to see you. Please use the chat room. If you want to ask questions, I think in the chat room is a good place. There is a question place. I don't know how to do that. We're not doing polls tonight. You know, just put up your hand if you've got a question, or yell out. Happy to see your faces. Wi-Fi seems to be working well, at least it is here. Put it into the chat room where you're coming from, because before we just, Christine, who's the president of ENVi, welcome Christine, acknowledged that we had people from right across this country, or at least somebody in Tasmania, and of course a lot of people here. So great to see you all. Oh, I just saw Richard Ferguson. Welcome, Richard. Good that you can manage to take time out from being on Macca on ABC Radio every Sunday morning, and it's good to see you here now. And I'd like to know what you're up to, and but it's really fantastic. So let's get on with it. It's been a really weird year. Boy, I mean, is that an understatement? And so I thought, well, let's have a bit of fun. Let's find out how some of our colleagues that have worked in cultural institutions or still are in cultural institutions but have perhaps ventured in other directions, what their experiences are. So tonight we've got Bernard Caleo, we've got Skye Nichol, and we've got Josh Earl. So give them a big round of applause. And that's clapping with a lot of hands in mute. Oh yeah, or you can clap like that, or you can show your hands as well. That's fantastic. So so hopefully you're not on mute, Bernard. Bernard Caleo, where are you coming from tonight?
So Patrick, hello everyone. I am coming from the salubrious banks of the Mary Creek, not far, we believe, from the corner where John Batman did his infamous treaty signing. So I'm in Northcote. I'm calling in from Northcote.
That's great. What a contentious debate that is, you know, because there are a lot of people that think it happened up at Pound Bend, which is out near Warrandyte, and of course a lot of people think it happened over your way. Bernard, I've got to warn you, I was walking along the path at the Merrow Creek a couple of days ago, tiger snake, and I told someone and they said they'd seen two, so that makes 3 tiger snakes. So watch out for that.
3 tiger snakes doesn't make a summer.
Hey Bernard, you used to be at Museum Victoria, Melbourne Museum, yes, all those years ago. You worked in programs, you were a performer, you were the face of the museum for a very long time. until they built one, and they.
I was like Luna Park. I was like the Luna Park face.
You were. People used to look for you for your mouth to go through, and so. But it meant that, you know, people were really excited to see you. You were so involved with the programs. You made things come alive. You interpreted things. You pulled brains through mummies' nostrils and talked about how much fun that was when you put them into clay pot jars, and taught us all about what it was like to be a Phoenician or an Egyptian, or, you know. So what are you doing now? I believe you're at readings, is that right?
It's absolutely true. So yeah, after 15 years of being in public programs at Melbourne Museum, and really, yeah, having an amazing time there, because I'm a theatre person, really, and so building shows, making performances there. I moved and went to, and my other practice, I suppose, is making comic books. I love the form of comic books. I think they're this remarkable alchemical sort of form of storytelling. And so I keep on making comic books and communicating about comic books. That's part of my work life. Yeah, I've been working at readings for the last couple of years, working particularly in their events team. I've got an amazing woman there, Christine Gordon, who runs events at Melbourne, at readings rather, across all the shops. And then more recently, certainly since the place is closed, I've been working still at readings a couple of days a week, packing books. So, you know, everybody's ordering books, which is excellent, because that means that readings is staying afloat. So I'm one of the people with, you know, a tape gun sticking these, you know, and if you get a box that is extremely, let us say, creatively packed, you know, looking more like a piece of Alexander Calder sculpture, perhaps, rather than a box that keeps your books dry and safe, that might be my work. Yeah.
Fantastic. We'll move on, but you also spent time, I was going to say inside, but inside the State Library as a fellow there. You were working on graphic novels there, or, you know, cartoons and that. So that's a part of your history which has shaped you.
Indeed, and in fact, I did start my working life in museums, literally inside, because Di Gardner employed me to work at the old Melbourne jail in 1995, doing these night tours. So I was this cranky old guard spooking people out at night time in the cold and spooky old Melbourne jail. So yeah, that's how I began that sort of
fantastic
theatre, really. Yeah.
You don't have to try hard to spook people out in there at night.
No. Yeah.
Hey, this from spooky to incredibly amazing. Skye Nichol, like, no one had ever heard of you. You were a complete unknown. You were a nobody, just walking along the street one day, and decides to call a race, the race of the penguins coming up across the beach. And he decided to do it online via Zoom, and thought, well, I wonder if anyone tunes in to look at this. What, about 700,000 people later? Phenomenal. And then I think the next night you had about 300,000, which qualifies you for over 1 million people. If that's not pivoting, I don't know what is. Hey, welcome, Skye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, we're at 20 million now, 20 million viewers so far.
That's more than you've got penguins.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Wow, that's incredible. And how long have you been a ranger down at Phillip Island? I don't mean down, it's up if you're from Tasmania tonight.
Yep, that's true. No, I've actually only been around for a year. I've been living all around the world for about the last 7 years. So I jumped in at the last second last year, just before everything shut down, and got my foot in the door just before everything closed. That was lucky. And just as a career path, were you doing similar work in ranger work? Yeah. Yeah. So before this, I was at a safari park in England for a couple of years. And then before that, I was in a rescue centre in Costa Rica for about 3 years rescuing animals. So it's always animals, just different types of animals.
And did you call did you call the March of the Meerkats or something in London, or is that where you got your practice from, or?
No, I think you all, if you watched the first night, you saw my first attempt. So it was very daunting as we got the impression. We sort of thought that maybe about, if we were lucky, maybe 20,000 people might tune in. So it was a bit of a shock, really.
I remember the next day ABC was saying it was such a hit, but not as you would expect. Like, people were saying, you know, great to see the penguins, but Skye Nichol stole the show. So how did you feel about that, Skye?
Yeah, it's been a bit daunting. The media reaction has been quite a shock. As you said, I was literally a nobody. I'd never had any media training or anything like that before. And the next day it was just back-to-back interviews all day across radio, TV, and getting called at 6 o'clock in the morning and saying, hey, can you be on TV in half an hour? And I go, oh, okay, I guess.
That's fantastic. It doesn't monetize, like, you can pay donations or something if you go online. Actually, just for everyone watching, you can, your first performance of 700,000 is still available to see on YouTube, I think. Yeah, and but I might come back to the question about monetizing, or, you know, I mean, this is a big operation that you run, and you've got to pay for it. So I might come back a little bit later and ask you that. If I don't, tell me I was going to ask that question. Okay. Cool. Josh Earl. Josh,
hello.
We've known for a long time. It's so good to have you here, Josh. You're a comedian. You perform in all the funny places around. And I see now that I mean, obviously you've got a website, joshearl.com, and or is it a .au? Just
it is an AU, yeah. I didn't get the .com. A guy who won Emmys for editing got the .com, so
no.
I'll go with .au.
Yeah. So you're the host of you don't know who I am.
Don't you know who I am? Close.
Don't know who I am, which is such a great concept. How long have you been doing that?
So this is a podcast I've been doing for about five years. Yeah. So it started off in seasons, and then from, I think, episode 50, I went every week with it. So we're up to like episode 227 today. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And you so that made you ready for this brave new world that we live in a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say so. So the concept of the show is I get 4 guests on and I quiz them about their lives. So it's a bit like Would I Lie to You meets This Is Your Life kind of. And it's just a great way to get the guests to tell good stories and be relaxed knowing, well, these stories are coming up. And it's a quiz where you're not expected to know any answers, because why would you? So I normally get 4 people in a room, and the challenge of, as everyone knows, with Zoom calls is trying to figure out how it was going to work in this situation and trying to get that vibe of still everyone in the room together, still being able to bounce off each other, being able to pause and let someone speak and not like railroad them. And so the transition's been a lot easier for me for this kind of situation than it has been for a lot of other comics who are trying to do stand-up to a video screen. It's like, yeah, it doesn't feel natural.
It's really hard. I mean, I'm waiting for the laughs too. So we needed a kind of soundtrack, but it's really hard, and it's hard to pick the vibe. You know, you don't know what people are thinking. Sometimes their faces just freeze. Somebody's put up a crying face again, which looks like, you know, things are going really badly. But I was told by Skye earlier on that a crying face actually means what's the meaning?
Yeah, it's a laughing emoji. It's laughing, crying.
I'm not good with emojis. I don't really speak emoji, but anyway, we'll continue. But you know, I was really keen on you to be here tonight, Josh, because you know you did work in a library and you made that.
I still do.
Well,
I'm still at the State Library. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were still there.
Yeah. It was interesting though, because that was I do comedy, but then I was always like going, well, I've got a family, and this can't last forever. So I'll be sensible and I'll have a backup job. And that was the first one to go. That was shut down way earlier than anything else. And I was like, oh, well, the plan B's gone. I better stick with plan A.
Wow. So I just saw a question come from Christine, wondering if it's not too personal.
I'm not on any JobKeeper. I monetize the podcast and it's doing well enough that I don't have to worry with Centrelink, which has been a breeze, not having to deal with them.
That's fantastic. That's really good. So you're pleased with the way, well, I mean, you've had years to establish that, but you know, some people just kind of all of a sudden wanting to get into this world might find it much harder to get that kind of income coming in.
Yeah. So what I was lucky in that about a year before, maybe even 18 months before all this COVID-19 happened, everything got shut down, I joined a site called Patreon, which a lot of artists are on. And because I was giving away the podcast for free, it was that thing of, if you want to support the podcast, join the Patreon. For $5 a month, I'll give you an extra episode a month. And then kind of build up. And then when COVID hit, everyone who, because I was about to do a show, I'd written a brand new show for the Melbourne Comedy Festival. We were 3 weeks away from opening that and everything kind of got cancelled. And at the start, we were like, oh, it'll be 6 weeks, 3 months, who knows? We'll be back. And so we're still waiting, but it's that thing of like, people are very, very generous. And it's been like people who have had like over 250 hours of free entertainment have been, oh, I better put my hand in my pocket and actually help out the performers. Because I was doing live shows over Zoom and paying all the acts and all that kind of stuff. So it was a nice way to try and help out the comedy community as well.
You probably got the email from Susan Proven yesterday about the comedy festival being on next year, but looking like it's going to be a fair bit online, that they're not going to build any comedy venues or set up any new ones. And they're watching carefully what happens with the Australian Open tennis and what happens with the cricket and how crowds go into those spaces and how that works. So it will be interesting because, as you know, we know this is a hard format if you haven't got a laughing crowd. What did you think? Did you watch any of the footy this year, Josh, when they had fake crowd in the background?
Yeah, I've been watching the NBA did the same thing. The NBA did it and theirs was almost like it was a play. You're watching it and they had like the screens all behind. But apparently I only found out today that the audience noises, the crowd noise wasn't being pumped into the stadium. It was only for the TV audiences. And so the players were just playing a game like they were in a practice session. So I think the NBA did it very well. The football did seem a bit weird, but it was that thing. Everyone would get used to it. It just takes a couple of weeks and everyone's like, all right, well, this is the new normal now. So we'll have to suck it up.
Yeah. It'd be interesting that if they did hear it, if Channel 7 were able to boom it out across the MCG, that, you know, players might react to the sound a little bit more, or particularly in Perth with the booing and things like that too. So, yeah. All right. So questions for Bernard and Skye and Josh. What has been the biggest thing that you've done to turn around what has happened? And it doesn't have to be you on your own. It could be who you work for. You know, what's the team that you're working with? What have they done? And Bernard, you said you're selling a lot of books and wrapping them up in boxes. People are coming, but have there been surprises? I notice online there are a lot of author talks and things like that.
Yes, I suppose for me, it has been interesting being looking at how Readings is responding to the crisis. And you know, there is click and collect, for example, at the Carlton shop, but you need to be within the 5-kilometre radius. And really, the change for Readings has been this. Oh my gosh, web orders are up, 700%. Like, how do we change our staff, of whom I'm one, from being people on the floor to being people, either taking care of those calls or wrapping books or, delivering. So that's been the big change there. For me, though, personally, the other organisation I work for are called Booked Out, who are a speakers allocation agency. So a school will contact Booked Out and say, oh, I need, you know, an illustrator or an author about health or whatever, and they send people out. And I get a bit of work through them and going to schools, and that really took a big dip when COVID started. And so that work, which I sort of depend on and I really enjoy, stopped for a while because schools were scurrying to understand what was going on. At the moment, as in right at the moment, as in today, Book Week got moved from August, which is when it usually is, to at the moment to right now, October. So at the moment, I am getting gigs speaking in schools, but of course I'm not in the schools. I'm speaking like I am to you guys now. Although the change as of this week is that some kids are back at school. So I'm speaking to groups of kids. So that's a bit of a modification of my usual work in terms of presentation. Yeah.
And Skye, to jump to you, thanks, Bernard. Skye, what? I've lost you. Oh, there you are in the middle there. You must lose penguins all the time, but I've lost you there for a minute. So what has your organisation done to change? I mean, besides the obvious.
Yeah, so we're tourism based, which has been a big problem because, well, one of the first markets, of course, to drop out was Chinese tourism, because we blocked the borders to China first of all, and then we blocked the border to everybody, and then we shut down completely. And so for us, right from late January, was it, early February, we started to see a dive until we completely got shut. And the Penguin Parade in particular is what funds all of the work that we do here at Phillip Island Nature Parks. And that is conservation work, education work. You know, we run 20% of the whole island and look after the beaches. And, you know, it's a really big business, I guess, that we need to run, which is like self-funded based pretty much on the Penguin Parade. We've got a few other things, but it's mostly the penguins that are bringing in the revenue. So all of a sudden, luckily we got a handout from the government, so that's kept us afloat. But now unfortunately, we've got to kind of accept that tourism's not going to be coming back for quite some time, certainly not in the way that we have known it. So we're now thinking about, as you said, you know, how are we going to monetize it? We've now got to find other ways of being, maybe like at the moment we've been getting money through tourism, but we're now I think we're going to be looking towards like, how can we be making our conservation work bring in money? How can we make the content that we produce bring in money? Like, how can we actually self-fund ourselves without getting bums on seats at the Penguin Parade?
Hey, it's getting dark. It's almost sunset. Do you have to go, Skye? No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. You don't go anywhere, please. So Josh, I mean, you're doing this stuff that's online, but what's been the biggest change in your life this year?
Well, I've got 2 young children too, so I was dealing with work and homeschooling and making sure that they were not anxious about this and trying to cope with because they're 6 and 9. So my youngest had just started school and he had like half or almost a term, and then it was off, and then it was on again, and that was then back on. So juggling that, and I think going online with it as well. So I did 10 episodes, which were video ones as well, and so just trying to make sure that you would know, and anyone who's dealt with doing Skye conference, doing Zoom conferencing, you'd be like going, do you have a microphone that works properly? Is your camera okay? And you'd get some guests who are great guests, and then they don't have a microphone that works properly, and so trying to deal with that on the fly, and so, but it was great. And also, what's been the biggest thing is it's opened it up for international guests as well. So I had like, normally it was just based in Melbourne because that's where I'm based, and so then it was like I had American guests come on, American comics that I wouldn't normally have access to. Had Ross Noble come on, Tim Minchin, all these kind of people who don't have the time to drive over to Brunswick where my office is and be there for an hour and a half to do the interview and the podcast, and so they can just do it from their office when they have to leave the house, and it makes it a lot easier for them. They're like, all right, well, I'll go do this for an hour and then I'm still home. So I think that's been a real benefit of the whole Zoom kind of podcasting culture that's been happening. Some of the episodes, as you said, you filmed. Don't you know who I am? I think I got it right that time.
it really looked like a studio, not a bad studio. Yeah. So
that's I have an office in Brunswick, which is called Stupid Old Studios, and a bunch of comics and creatives in there, and they film a lot of things around Melbourne. And so they had an empty studio downstairs. They were like, let's do something, because they'd lost a whole bunch of work as well. And so I had all the people, no one was in the studio apart from me and a camera operator. And then there was an editor upstairs, and everyone was remotely zooming in. So it actually did feel, though, like we're all kind of there, because it was how it was edited was really, really well.
That's great. It's fantastic. Really worth a look. So go to Josh Earl's site and have a look at that. It's a lot of fun. I've got a question here from May, and then we're going to look at my own penguin parade, and I'm going to ask my technical assistant to come and hold the penguin for me for a moment. But May's question, and I'll start with you, Skye, is about nerves. Like, you had to face the press, you've got the world media wanting to know what it's like to become an overnight hit, sensation, success. What was it? What's it like talking to the media? Did you get much training, help, assistance?
Yeah, I got a little bit. So just before the media stuff happened, we've got a PR consultant person. I don't really know their job title, but anyway, they were on the phone to me and they're like, okay, say this, and these are your talking points. And I was like, what, talking points, all right. And they're sort of telling me, because I had to speak to Neil Mitchell, and like, call him Neil. And things like this. But in terms of nerves, I literally sort of do a bit of a dance and a bit of a shake. That's how I get rid of my nerves. But also, I think that nerves are important. I think that you need them to get you through. If you're not feeling nervous, you're probably not going to do a very good job.
What kind of dancing? Like ballroom dancing? Do you need someone else to come in with you, or?
It's more of a shake.
I just noticed that Christine's got canned laughter, and I wanted to try it by doing something funny, but no, I can't hear it. So. Okay, hey Skye, for you, I've got my own penguin parade. So I've got this little penguin here, if you can see on the tin here. Okay, now I'm going to wind it up, and so my assistant Kath, can you just push the top of it, and I'll if you could just hold the top of it just gently, and I've got to play some music. So can you? See if you can hear this. Sorry. He's going off screen. Come back here. He doesn't stop, so I had to get Robot Chicken to go chasing after Flamenco Penguin to say, hey, you stop. And there he goes. The rush is on. Robot Chicken's coming over to stop. Oh, you can't even see Flamenco Penguin. There, they stopped anyway. So how about a big hand for Flamenco Chicken? Oh, geez, thanks, guys. All right. Problem. Skye, Josh, and Bernard, you work in a cultural institution, and you've got a group of what year level? What does anyone suggest? Call it out, please. What year level?
6.
Sorry?
9.
Year 9s. Thank you, Sue from the Shrine. You know what year 9s are like. So year 9s are coming to your cultural institution. It's a history museum, and they're doing a session on 1850s games. Okay, so they're going to learn about the horseshoe, the ball and cup, a game called Graces, which is like frisbee, but you have 2 sticks to flick a round circle at each other. Maybe, no, not the hula hoop, because they were made of iron in those days. Hey, Pete Hoban, you'd remember a few games from the 1850s. Can you tell me something that they might have played in the 1850s?
Well, marbles, quoits, those sorts of things, Yeah.
All right. So,
Margaret Bertley is saying 10-pin bowling. Stephanie Rose,
10
quoits, shuttlecock.
pin bowl. Thanks, Margaret. Hello, Margaret.
Yeah.
So, Skye, Bernard, and Josh, we've got 30 year nines coming in with a teacher. Their teacher is an emergency teacher, doesn't even know the kids, and she's supervising. So, or he's supervising these year nine boys, and you've got to teach a lesson on 1850s games. It's a history-focused lesson. But the kids haven't got any toys to play with. They're all zooming in from home. So how do you make this interesting, fun, exciting? How do you turn this around? Don't expect there to be brilliant answers, but I'm writing them down in case I end up doing this one time. Hey, Josh, you've got your...
All right. With all this kind of stuff with the year 9 boys especially, I think because this is a very big generalization, but they're very self-centered at that age. And I'd say try and make it about them, always their own experiences and judging it on what they would have done, how they would have acted back in the 1850s. You've only got knuckle bones to play with. How would life be back then? I think, and then when you go into like the storytelling of all these items that you've got to show them, I think that's how you get, especially that age. And most students, you start with the story, try and make that as engaging as possible. And it's the same with comedy. You try and make the audience feel like they're a part of it, even though you know exactly where you're going with it. But it's that thing of trying to make it about them or putting them in the picture as much as possible.
Right. That was a sensible answer. I wasn't expecting that, Josh. That's great. That's really cool.
It's all my years of working at the State Library coming in. I've just seen that coming up on my roster, just going year 9 boys, and they don't have the teacher. Great. Thanks for putting me on this one. This is something. Yes.
Now that you've said something serious, you can get a tax deduction for this.
Yeah, great.
Hey, Skye, what would you do? You must get a lot of year 9s at night coming in. Yeah. What's that like anyway?
Penguin Parade's all right. They're with their teachers and, they're on the boardwalks. There's only so much chaos you can cause. But, well, you say that and then things can go wrong, of course. But, yeah, I actually used to be a teacher. I used to teach at not all boys, but mostly boys' school. So I'm well familiar with your year 9s. I would say, and actually we do old-timey games at Churchill Island here on Phillip Island. So if you have them in the room, of course, you get them to play it. That's how you do it. But at home, I think you'd be looking for them to find similar objects to whatever it was that you wanted to play, whether it was the knuckles or whatever. It's okay, find something at home that'll work as knuckles, find something at home that will work as whatever you're playing, find a hoop, and then get them to do some sort of challenge, get them involved with it, some sort of challenge where they have to, figure out their score or time themselves doing something or other and then compete. Because year 9s, they just want to compete. That's all they want to do. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, I love that idea, Skye. I was talking to someone yesterday who has been doing, usually they do pub bingo and stuff like that, and so, but they've been doing, been still doing, entertainment stuff for their workplaces, but they've got this thing which basically just sounds like a treasure hunt, but it's like, okay, to everyone at home, you got 5 minutes to find a novelty teaspoon, an inappropriate T-shirt, and go. And so then it becomes like as you say, and for those boys who are all at home, man, I've got to go and get that stuff because I want to beat Benny who is a pain in the ass, so that makes that, that would make it, I think that's a great idea, that making a game of it and even making the finding of it a game. And while you were talking, Josh, I thought of, for some reason, it came up about making things disgusting is good.
Yeah.
So
the gruesomeness. Yep.
Gruesomeness. Knuckle bone. Like if they're knuckle bone, okay, it's from a sheep. It's not a plastic knuckle bone. This is something you've eaten, and then to have some, because you're on Skype, or on the screen, put in an image of a sheep being boiled down or something. Just make it disgusting, and that would sort of give it a bit of veritas.
Also with the year 9 boys, I would disable the annotation thing because you just, especially if you bring up they played shuttlecock. You know what they're going to draw on the screen. So just cut that out. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
All right. I want to get some questions from all of our guests here. All of our visitors here tonight, and find out what you think or what you'd like to ask Skye or Josh or Bernard, and see what they have to share. So please, I want you to start asking questions. Maybe you can put up your hand and then unmute yourself, and I'll call your name. And I'm trying to look at both pages as we do this. So
Patrick, I've got a question.
You got to put up your hand.
Sorry,
Bernard, have you got a question?
I've got a question. Where is this Rococo or Moroccan doorway from?
That's great. It's my door to my bathroom, actually. So.
Wow, it's really good. It's really good.
There's a long story.
No doubt.
I'll do it in a nutshell.
Not a long drop.
Sorry, my wife's doing comedy from the other side of the.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. She should have done this. Do you want to swap places already? You know, so
you could have held the head of the penguin.
Yeah, that wasn't bad. Thanks. Anyway, so no. I was like everyone else in Bali, sick, and I was lying in bed, and I thought, wow, there's not a better place to be sick in the whole world than in this room, which was a really beautiful room. And at the same time, we decided to put an ensuite off our bedroom here, and we had this problem of space for a door, like a big swinging door, and there wasn't much wall cavity for a sliding door, and we had to have a door.
So you took the door from the hospital.
It dawned on me, and so I went for these double doors, which I got in Brunswick. So yeah, but I remember Kath and I went driving all around Denpasar and places like that where they make and sell doors, but a lot of people in Melbourne sell them too. So
Amazing.
yeah, they're good. They're functional.
Move on.
All right, now questions, please. That was a filler, so I'm just taking questions. Nobody wants to ask a question. I can't even see. Hey, Michelle, get that person to ask a question. Michelle, is that Patrick with you?
There's several of them.
Yeah.
They just keep multiplying.
Hello, Michelle. Kids. Hello. So, did you have a question, Michelle?
No, Michelle's gone.
Ah, she
I have a question. I wonder if Skye would commentate the penguin and the chicken racing.
Oh, could you do that? Could you do that, Skye? So I'm gonna put them both on. I'm gonna put robot chicken and flamenco penguin on at the same time, and you've got to call it, okay, in a race. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see how we go. I'm not going to get in trouble with your media people for. Anyway, we'll try this. So
Copyright. Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out.
these have been pre-wound by my wife. Thank you very much,
Oh my
Kat.
God.
And right. So they're in the box. Red lights flashing. Set. Racing.
All right, we've got an early lead from our penguin pal there, but the funky chicken is coming up slowly behind there. We've had an interference from the side, a little flick from Patrick. That seems a little bit unfair. That penguin is far outmatching that chicken. That pit chicken has just got a bit of a groovy, slow walk. That's all I can see going on there. But the penguin's having trouble staying straight, keeps going off to the side. So look, I think it's a penguin today. I think the penguin has won it today, and the chicken is the loser.
Well done, yeah. As many robot chickens are losers. Hey, thanks very much.
Skye be up for doing the Melbourne Cup this year?
Yeah.
We could take bets, couldn't we? All right. So, Margaret's accusing me of doing a dad joke. Sorry if I did a dad joke. Hey, but while we're here and while we're telling jokes, I've got to tell you that a semicolon was arrested the other day and charged and given 2 consecutive sentences
Very good.
Thanks, Margaret. Have you got a question?
Yeah, I've got a question for Josh and for Bernard, both of them being gentlemen of the book. Now that we're all getting used to seeing people's personal libraries and pretend libraries behind them, I'd love to hear from Josh and Bernard with their book bibliographic and bibliophile expertise, what they make of those bookshelves, and can they give us any tips for curating our own backgrounds better?
Do you want to
What's
go,
it
Bernard?
like to
You work in a bookshop.
Yeah.
No. Oh, yeah.
Sure. What have I seen? This is not at my bookshelf, but I have seen that there is a chap who does a sort of a podcast. A podcast must be a visual podcast, a vodcast out of New York, and he takes what he calls bookshelfies. And so, you know, that's part of his sort of persona in this. And I mean, I suppose, Margaret, you know, the bookshelf is always a reveal. You know, when you come to somebody's house for the first time, you're going to run a quick eye over what they've got in their shelves and just go, ah, yes, I think we might have something here to go on. But in terms of this time, you know, some people are just not very coordinated, I think, in their bookshelves. You know, this whole sort of stacked, this sort of studied casualness takes a long time to curate, and you need to create a topography.
Was it curated or is it the in system?
What was that?
Ian from the Fire Brigade Museum.
Yeah, I said, was it curated or is it just the in system?
The in system. Yeah, here's what's coming in. Yes. But the Dewey system, Josh, is a totally different ball of kettle of onions, kettle of fish, kettle of.
What I like about the Dewey, Melbourne Dewey, most people know this. He did all this before he was 23.
Oh,
like, can you imagine how anal that boy must have been? Just looking at everyone's book collection going, there's got to be an easier way. I don't know the answer. Decimals. That is got to be the. And also, Melville Dewey was very big on language reform. One of the reasons why Americans don't have U's in their letters, in their words. He actually wanted to spell his surname D-U-I, which is a true fact. And yeah.
So he could have. So he. That's why he used numbers and not colours, because he couldn't spell colour. And it was a very honourable profession that in what he did. But good old John Dewey, anyway. Yeah. Do we have any more questions? Is that your hand in the air, Christine? No, your hand's in your hair. Sorry.
I've always got questions. I just wondered if Bernard had ever seen a book on someone's shelf that ended a friendship. If he's making decisions about people based on their bookcases.
Well, look, Christine, you've got to make a decision on some basis. There are just so many people in the world. You need some sort of discriminatory filter.
What's your favourite movie?
But yes, I don't know that I've ever that a peremptory book, a friendship ender on the basis of a book. It must be. Sorry, Josh, you going there?
I was going to say, I've just got all my bookshelves next to me here, so it's not on display. But if it was on display, you'd see stuff like how to talk to little kids so they'll listen, the mindful child.
Oh yeah.
Peaceful Parents, Happy Kids, Happy Child, Happy Home, Creative Disciplines. Like, none of these books have been read, by the way. Like, we have bought them all to try and to understand why our kids, and then we don't have time because we've got young kids. So we don't have time to read these books. But our bookshelf is just full of how to parent our kids better books. The only thing going to be used for is we'll throw them at them if they don't listen to us.
We've got a lot of beds. We've got a lot of beds. We've got a lot of books under our bed. I'd bring them out to show you, but the bed would fall over. So, that's what they're there for. All right.
I do think when I was thinking about talking about tonight, I was thinking about what I value about this period is that is that it's introduced this great sense of precarity or unsuredness about the world, an anxiety. And I think, well, that's the sort of state that artists, comedians, painters live in all the time. It's just like, guys, welcome to an existence of trying to make stuff and trying to make enough money and keep your children fed. Just have a little taste. Like, for me and my gang, this is the real world. The money's gone. There is no more money. There's so much week left at the end of the money. The idea of there's no gig coming up. What the hell is going to happen? I value that precarity, that sense of unsuredness. Yeah, is being a little bit shared around.
I agree. I've been a comedian for 15 years, and this last 6 months is the first time I've actually taken a break from. I mean, and I've been busy, but it's been. I know the work that's coming up. It's not what's going to happen, and so it's actually for me. It's been quite I've spent 6 months not traveling. It's been 6 months with my family. It's actually been really nice. I mean, there are times where I'm like, all right, I just want to move beyond the five kilometers I'm allowed to, but. It's actually been quite okay, which is as good as 2020 can be. Quite okay.
Yeah. What, Skye, do you want to take with you from this pandemic, and what do you never want to see again from this pandemic? So what's been good, and what do you really hate about it?
I'm liking the connectivity on Zoom. I'm liking that that's become a much more normal thing. Of a night you can just go, I might just call this person and see how they're going. Because I feel like at least in the last little while, and I don't know if it's just my generation or if it's just gone across the board, but calling someone's become a lot less common than it was when I was young. So I'm really enjoying that calling or that video calling bit again. The stuff that I can be done with is needing to stay inside. I had a COVID test a few months ago, and not being able to leave the house, that did my head in. And mine took 10 days to come back. So I had 10 days and I was just like, let me out. Didn't much like that.
Terrible. Listen, I didn't know you were responsible for Churchill Island too. And I was really excited to meet John Clark there. He passed away a couple of years ago. But I understand that his family have just donated land to Phillip Island for a wilderness. You're not aware of that?
I think that's it's not land care. It's some organisation, Patrick.
Okay.
It's not the Phillip Island Nature Parks that Skye works for, but it's a sort of a here we go. Trust for Nature. Thank you, Margaret. So that's that piece of land John Clark donated. Okay.
Yeah, big piece of land, very generous. So yeah, it's on French Island. Richard, thank you.
No, it's on Phillip Island.
Oh, it's on Phillip Island.
Yeah,
and maybe on French Island, and the other end of the island too. I'm just reading this as it comes through. All right, what Bernard do you never want to see again, and what do you want to take with you after this pandemic? And I'm being optimistic that it's after a pandemic.
After the pandemic, is there any after the pandemic?
There is.
I think with Skye, I agree with this sense of having the ability to communicate in this way forced upon us by planes being like our. That's great. That's great that plane flying is no longer this sort of born to do it. It shouldn't be that easy. It shouldn't be that easy. We're running the planet into the ground. So that this sort of modesty that it is forced upon people, I think is remarkable. yeah, so I think that's a great thing, that closer to the ground. I mean, quite literally with what do they call telephones in the air, aeroplanes, but just more generally, I don't need to go to Sydney to do that meeting. I can do it from here, you know, or you know, from where I am. I think that's good. And basically, you know, really, I just never want to hear the word Trump again in my freaking life. You know, I just want him to, I know it's a bad dream and it's clear that it's out, you know, and so that'd be really, I mean, I know it's not driven by the pandemic, but the decisions, the way that man is conducting himself, and what he's doing to his country and thus the world, is, well, not just sickening but nonsensical. You know, Lewis Carroll would write, you know, a more reasonable script than what he's working from.
See, that's a big call. Josh, the same question. What do you want to take with you, and what don't you ever want to see again?
I think a really good thing that's come out of this for me is I've explored my area where I live a lot more. Like, I live near Eggers Creek, and we'd go down there occasionally, but we've been down there pretty much every day of this, and it's been beautiful to go and explore. And the fact that Northcote Golf Course is open on the for people to walk through, and this beautiful I'd never been there before. I don't play golf. I had no interest of going to a golf course, and then I went there like 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing. I mean, a lot of dogs off leash. I'll say, hopefully people who go there with their dogs have them on the lead, because, you know, it is one of those things. You're like, okay, there are signs saying put your dog on a lead, but yeah, I think that just exploring my area, and also realizing I'm very lucky where I live. Like, that's one thing that I kind of took for granted before all this. I was very excited at the start of this that we won't have any more unnecessary meetings, but then a lot of Zoom meetings happen that you go, oh, this could have been an email. I think that's been something that's come up that I'm like, oh yeah, you could have emailed me this, that's fine. But yeah, apart from that, I've been really busy, and I think that's the other important thing, that people have realized how important work is, or keeping busy is, for mental health. I think that's something that hopefully bigger businesses like government will realize that, yeah, we need to invest more in mental health, because it's like a win for everyone.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh. Right, we've only got a few minutes left, everyone, so this really is your last chance to get a joke in or a question, please. So because I'm all out of one-liners and I'm all out of questions, and I'm asking
Actually, Patrick, I did hear about that semicolon you were talking about before.
Yeah.
Who woke up in a hospital bed, sweating, and saying, where am I? And the nurse said, that's okay, you've just come out of a coma.
That's good news for the semicolon, isn't it? And you can laugh silently, and no one knows. You can laugh on mute.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, I'm looking for
nice freeze.
Or somebody.
I've got a question for Josh.
Christine, thank you.
Yes.
Unless someone else has another question. Their question's probably better than mine.
No, go, Christine.
My question's for Josh. So I'm thinking that for the people that are in here that fancy themselves as being a little bit funny and would like a career in comedy,
yes,
what would you suggest as the next step that they should take?
Andrew's saying no, don't do it. No, look, at the minute, it's very hard because there's nowhere to practice. And that's the thing. You just got to do it. And there's no point putting it off. It's one of those things where you're only going to get better if you do it. And you're going to be terrible to start with. Everyone is terrible to start with. And it's just one of those things you just have to get in the mindset that this will be bad. And if you start it with this will be bad, you've only got up, you can only go up. So I think that's the big thing. Just do it. There's no, and it is one of those things that people are like, oh, there are gatekeepers when you get higher, but to start off with, there's when all the open mics are back up, you can just sign up and do it that night, and don't tell anyone you're doing it, and just do it. And if it's bad, it's bad. You don't have to do it again. And if it's good, oh great, you'll have a good time.
Are you performing, Bernard? Are you doing any performing around at all?
No, just working on a couple of things, shows, I suppose, at the moment. One about comic books, unsurprisingly, and another one which will be, I love this form of performing called kamishibai, which uses images and performing, which is from Japan. And I want to do a story from, actually the story that I was working on at the State Library Fellowship. So it's set in Melbourne in the 1880s, which was a really great time in Melbourne. Wild time, very, very bananas sort of town at that time. And so I want to do a live show with images and speaking. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, we've come to the end of the night. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. This is a really, strange time, but we wanted to be a bit more relaxed and not have people fall asleep in the middle of the afternoon. The whole thing's been an experiment. So thank you to the ENVi committee for putting it on and making it happen, and to Amaga for marketing it and getting the tickets out there. And thank you to our 3 fantastic guests for this evening. Skye, who's come all the way from Phillip Island. Thank you so much, Skye. Congratulations on your amazing turnaround this year, and we look forward to perhaps keeping the conversation going with you on what you're doing down there, because most people that are here tonight are educators and work in that field of tourism and cultural interpretation. Thank you so much, Bernard Caleo, for being here tonight. Wonderful. It's so good to see you again. And you're always full of energy. And if you can, something about your bookshelves. And thank you so much, Bernard. Just great to hear your stories. And I really do encourage people to look at your website, and also yours, Bernard, Cardigan Comics. Yep, cardigancomics.com. And so everyone that's been here tonight, thank you very, very much. And here's share it with you. Good night.